If you feel like going out to dinner tonight, well, you might want to listen to this first, because the editors of Reader's Digest asked 24 waiters from across the country to spill the beans on what really goes on behind the scenes at restaurants, and some of what they found may actually change your reservations. Peggy Northrup is the global editor-in-chief of Reader's Digest. Peggy, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so now how did you find these waiters and waitresses, and do you think they really spilled the beans in an honest way?
Oh, yes, and in fact, we interviewed about 25 people around the country. Some of them were ex-waiters and waitresses. Some of them are active bloggers, so you can find this out for yourself. But patterns started to emerge, so that's when we knew we were really on to something.
And one of the things you found you were onto is that there are lies.
Yes.
Little white lies?
Yes, little white
about
lies.
What?
Is the coffee hot? Oh, yes. Is it homemade? Well, yeah, but not by us. And every now and then you might even find somebody who would give a little bit of a fib in order to raise their tips.
Like?
So you're working on Christmas. Oh, honey, why are you here? Well, my sister's been in the hospital. Or,
They might lie about that.
Yes, they might just tell a little fib in order to boost their tips.
Boost their tip, huh? Also, waiters get annoyed. I think that we all sort of know that, but what's the repercussion of that?
Well, waiters can, they can do a little drive-by to listen in on your conversation. They can make fun of you in the back. I mean, that was one of the things I noticed, that if you're having a fight with your husband and suddenly you're getting really good service, that's probably because all of the waiters are coming by to find out what you're saying.
Oh, my
Yes.
gosh, you would guess that. Okay. And also asking for something like hot tea can be a major headache, so that may make them angry. Why hot tea?
That one really surprised me, because I'm a tea drinker, and I thought, what could be so hard about this? You're not even actually doing it. You're just boiling the water. Well, they haven't streamlined it the way they have with coffee. So they have to go get the tea, they have to get the lemons, they have to get the honey, they have to get the assortment of teas, and they just think it's a lot of work for not very much.
So that might make them cranky. Also, you say never snap, obviously, never whistle, just don't do that. You also say what's homemade. You mentioned this earlier. What's homemade may not be homemade, but things you might think are homemade, like the soup, is not necessarily homemade.
Well, I once worked in a resort kitchen, and indeed our homemade clam chowder came out of an industrial strength bucket, and to which we added a little pat of butter to make it look like it had just come off the stove.
And the story you heard about what may be homemade cake?
Oh yes, Costco cake sold for $10 a slice in a restaurant.
That,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm
that's a
speechless.
rare thing. But
That has to be pretty rare.
Yeah.
And it said homemade. It wasn't just
it said
cake.
homemade.
It said
Yes.
homemade.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we want to have our food to be very fresh. And so you have also learned some tips about when to order what if you want freshness.
Right. I think a lot of people know that fish does not get delivered fresh every day. So, for example, Sunday and Monday, you're not very likely going to get fresh fish. So you have to be careful about that. Also, this chef's special can sometimes be the thing that they really need to get rid of, because it's fresh, but only for another minute or two.
Okay. Now, where we get really down to brass tacks. If you're a germaphobe, there's some things you need to know, especially about lemons.
Lemons. This is the one thing that really changed my behavior. I found out that they don't really wash the lemons, and they cut them up, and then think about it, everybody touches them. So in flu season, that's something that I'm just not doing. No lemons.
So bottom line, in terms of getting the best service and getting the best meal, you say you've got to think about how you behave towards your waiter or waitress. And what are the tips there?
Absolutely. It's important to be nice. These folks are very busy, and they're not working for a lot of money. They're working for their tips. And you can get a much better experience if you treat the server like a person. Treat them the way you would like to be treated. Recognize that if you're stiffing them on the tip, you're probably stiffing the entire organization. It might not be the server's fault. Always better to speak to the manager. And sometimes you can get a great experience by just saying to your server, it's a special occasion for me. It's my husband's birthday. Can you help me make this something special?
You're not recommending we lie about that. But,
no.
But no, having been a waitress, I think that being nice and being engaged is a great tip. Peggy Northrup, thanks so much.
Thank you
for your information.